Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sayed. How are you?
Very good,
Good,
thank you.
good
I'll
Thank
share
afternoon.
my
you.
slides.
Yes, please.
Right, guys, good morning or good afternoon because you're in the UAE. Good morning for me because I'm obviously in the UK right now. I hope you're well. Now, before you embark on these classes or lectures, try and keep an open mind. Don't run before you walk. Okay? Try and think of things holistically. Don't get lost. And don't get overwhelmed by the smaller details. Always try and capture a more holistic picture. Okay, a more of a helicopter view rather than getting lost in the smaller details, especially prematurely as well. Anyway, my name's Syed Abdul Majid Gilani. Thank you for having me along. Uh, So, just to give you a little background of who I am, I did my PhD from Glasgow Caledonian University. My areas of expertise in terms of research are machine learning, innovation adoption, and rural entrepreneurship. I'm currently doing an EdD from the University of Glasgow. I work as a senior lecturer at Birmingham City University, and I've worked in academia in the UK as well as the UAE. Just to let you know where I'm from, etc. It's very important so that you get an idea of where my experiences are coming from. Okay, so in terms of learning objectives for today, guys, I please do not get worried if I don't elaborate or expand on given areas because you've got weeks to come when it comes to literature review, when it comes to research methodology, etc. We cannot afford to get lost in those areas. The very first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what we want to explore or investigate, and we need to appropriately frame these key points before we embark on this journey that we call a PhD or a doctoral level research. So for today, these are the things we'll be doing. We'll be framing a research title and aim. So we'll be getting the ingredients as to how we may frame a research title and aim, where you can go away in your own time. You can maybe explore how you may create or develop your research title and aim. We'll be looking to understand how you outline research objectives. We'll be learning how to appropriately establish a set of research questions which basically forms the basis of your research study. And finally, we won't be going too much into detail here, but it's just so as a starting point, a bit of reverse engineering. How may your proposed research link to research methodology? Okay, so first of all, guys, before we do anything, guys, background reading. So what is involved in the selection of a given topic area? What does that involve? What does that entail? Okay, so guys, what do you think that would involve if you had to venture a guess? Remember, there's no wrong or right answers. It's just your opinion. So what would be the initial steps when you're trying to select a topic? What would you do? What would you use?
Mm,
Would you ask a friend? Would you talk to the security guard? Would you talk to the parking attendant? Would you watch TV? What would you do when you're exploring a topic or when you're considering a topic or when you're trying to generate ideas?
Well, for me, sorry, my name is Coyote. I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria. Nice to meet you. In my own view, I think if I'm trying to select topic, I think the first thing, again, this, since there's no right or wrong answer, I think it's just to, first of all, try to search. I have a concept in my head. I have a concept. I want to search, for example, what has been done about it.
So how will you do
What?
that? Will you ask your neighbor, or will you roll a dice, or will you
No.
um,
I think,
so what
I
how
think
would you
what
do it?
I think what I would do is first to search. And when I say search, is to look at what the available search opportunities are. For example,
But,
you go to
but how will you do that though?
Google Scholar, as in just,
Thank you very much. So you'll go online. You will go
yes.
online, and you will not just go online. You may go to Google Scholar. Google Scholar is very reliable, guys. Okay. So Google Scholar is a more refined version of Google. If you don't know already, you just simply need to type in Google Scholar and that'll pop up. That'll definitely give you some ideas. Okay. So that's a good starting point. So just to zone out a wee bit more, because our colleague here, he done very well to mention Google Scholar. We would look at things like what's available there. So whether it's a Google search or Google Scholar, we'll make some notes, maybe create a spreadsheet on a given topic area. So what studies are out there? What have they done? What have they found? What are maybe the emerging areas? What are the recommendations in terms of future scholars, etc.? We need to do the reading. We need to see what sort of data has already been collected. So has it been primary data? Primary data as in they've gone and collected data direct from the source, or is it just mostly secondary data available? Even if it is primary data or primary research, what type of primary research is it? Is it mostly qualitative research? Is it mostly quantitative research? Or is it mixed methods? So we need to find that out as well. In addition to that, when was the last research study conducted? Was it in 2025? Was it in 2010, etc.? And the other things that we may be looking at to carve out a niche for our own research study or focus area is what has been the geographic context of past studies, etc. So this would all form the basis of your background research. The other thing is, it's very important that you pick an area that interests you. There's no point of picking an area that doesn't interest you, because guess what? You'll be spending at least 3 to 5 years minimum working on that given area. So if you hate an area and you pick it for the sake of picking it, I don't think that is desirable or suitable. Uh, and in terms of career prospects, what do you want to do in the future? So if you pick an area on rural entrepreneurship, so I'm assuming you want to specialize in that particular area, etc. So try and future-proof things as well. Try and add an element of future planning in there as well. Look, I'm going to expand further on this in my future career as well, if I wish to go into academia or industry, etc. Niche, try and carve out a niche. So, okay, these studies are really insightful. They're great. They're giving me insight. However, what do they not have that my study may have? So you're a bit of a salesman to promote your own research focus as well. So they've got this. However, they don't have that, which my study is going to do, which may be geographic focus, industrial focus, or maybe there's a lack of quantitative research studies, which your research focus is going to address. So that is all a part of the background study. Try and be creative. Think out of the box. Okay, don't be a square. Okay, so think out of the back box. There's nothing wrong with being creative and thinking out of the box. Don't go too crazy. Don't go down the route of, okay, I want to explore whether or not it's livable on the moon. You're not going to get anywhere. You might talk to people in NASA and stuff, but you're not really going to get like the primary data-based experiences of people living on the moon, because we haven't got to that point. It's a challenge. It's impossible. You've probably had people walking around on the moon, jumping back on the ship and coming back down again, but that's it. So it's not really an appropriate research study. Yes, there's not been a lot done on it before. However, what are we going to gain from this, which may benefit the wider population? So you're looking at the why and the so what factor. So Basically, if the floor underneath this carpet in the room that you're sitting, or nobody knows what color it is. So there's a gap in knowledge because nobody knows the color of the floor underneath the carpet. So I'll need to strip this carpet away because I'm going to make a contribution to knowledge. But then the other area is who cares? So what? How does it impact the wider population? Then you scratch your head and think, nobody will really care. It won't matter to the wider population. It's not going to make a significant contribution in terms of employability, policy creation, etc. So you need to look at two areas here, the why and the so what. So the why is whether or not your area is going to address a gap, and the so what is whether or not there is a significance from your research when it comes to areas like employability, policy, practice, in terms of like better informing businesses in their regular practice, etc. So guys, remember when you're thinking, try and start off by divergent thinking. So a funnel approach, you're exploring, you're rolling the dice, you're exploring different ideas. But eventually, guys, it is a funnel approach. You narrow down to more convergent thinking. You need to eventually narrow down. Narrow down, and that narrowing down will lead to you generating your research aim, title, objectives, and question. If you're still thinking divergently, then it's going to be rather impossible for you to narrow things down in terms of your aim, title, and research objectives, as well as research questions. Right, so what are effective strategies for topic selection, guys? So I've got a few things here. So maybe it's a burning desire, something you really were passionate about exploring. Maybe a study area that has already been done, but it's not been done in a way where maybe it explores a given geography or a given timeline, etc., and you want to tap into that potential gap. Maybe you have career aspirations that you want to transition into that particular area. So that is why you want to research that given area. Maybe you're faced with an organizational issue in a place where you work, and you're going to go out and do that research or the related research to come up with a solution at the end. You're not just identifying a problem, you're coming up with a solution. So this is especially applicable for a DBA study. It may be related to your industry, your actual organization, where you want to explore a research area related to your industry and come up with solutions, and it intrigues you. It may be something you're passionate about, which covers the whole of society, like like the things along the lines of how can we ensure equal opportunities when it comes to education in this given country? How can we improve that? How can we overcome the infrastructure barriers, the financial barriers, etc.? So it's something that you're passionate about from your own experiences. Okay. So what are the attributes for a good topic? So maybe it relates to theory. It's concisely defined. It may relate to individuals or groups or organizations. It is small enough for you to cover within a 3 to 5 year period. So you are definitely doing a cross-sectional research study where you will be collecting data within a restricted period of time rather than a longitudinal study. So don't make the study challenging or too challenging where it may lead to a 5 to 10 year study where you're collecting data over, like, say, in year 1, then in year 5, and then in year 10. Avoid that, guys. Try and manage expectations. But however, your study needs to be big enough to constitute or to provide the rationale for PhD level research. So you need to find that balance. The only way for you to find that balance is to go and explore yourself and work within the parameters that I will share with you today, and try and engage with your supervisor rather than rolling the dice, jumping in head first and just coming up with something. You need to closely work with your supervisor. there's a feasibility in terms of cost. It personally engages you or drives you. The data may be easily accessible. Obviously, you don't want to do a research study which has like tape around it, like what policy-based tape, or there's some sort of issue, etc. Maybe you want to do a study regarding a military policy in the US government. There's no danger you're going to get anything regarding that. So try and manage expectations. Be sensible, guys. Okay. So don't look at things. In most cases, I would avoid trying to explore government figures and try and look at it from the perspective of, members of the population, etc., business owners, etc. Okay. Even then, avoid larger businesses, because larger businesses will try and protect themselves unless you're maybe looking at shop floor or mid-level employees. And it's something that definitely meets the university requirements. If it's not something that meets the university requirements, then you will fail. It's as simple as that. Okay. And finally, ensuring that you've got the appropriate supervisor there who has adequate expertise in the area to help you. So, guys, a bit of advice is try and draw out a mind map. So when you're sitting down thinking of something, draw out a mind map. So what is a mind map? It's something that looks like this, okay? So maybe your core area is, I don't know what's really attractive nowadays. So your core area is maybe business, and then you branch out into, like, say, the fashion industry, and then even within the fashion industry, you branch out into micro-sized enterprises, and then you can have another branch which may be the fashion industry based in the UAE, etc. So as you can see here, there's different branches, and then even within the use of ICT, this person is branching out into different theories. So these are like change theory, systems analysis theory, etc. Or you can maybe add theories like the TAM theory, etc. But again, that's for another day. Okay. So in terms of business, how may you explore this business? Will it be the employees or will it be the employers, etc.? And how will you collect the data? So this person is branching out in terms of case studies. So that's what they're going to do. But we might go down the route of doing questionnaires, and then we can branch that out into SPSS analysis, etc. But again, this is a discussion for another day. Okay. So, but that's a mind map that they've created where they've got like a main idea, then they're branching out into sub areas, and then within a sub area, then they further branch out into additional sub areas. Okay, so this is something maybe you can do at the very start before you do anything. You get a piece of paper and you just start writing things out, and then branching out, creating this mind map, ideas that are coming into your head, etc. But because there's no point of coming up with ideas, talking about them, and then just giving up. Try and put your ideas on paper, whether it's digitally or whether it's you're just simply doodling on a notepad. So, guys, what is a research aim? So what comes to mind when I say research aim? What's a research aim? What do you think of when I say research aim? Yes, Mirza.
Hi, everyone. This is Mirza Ali. I'm contacting from Tajikistan. My perception from the research aim is it focuses on the main goal through which the research tries to address the gap and through which the research tries to either convey the knowledge or contribute to the theoretical framework development of a subject thematical area. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you for having a go. So that was very insightful. Thank you very much for that. So in addition to your points, this is what I have. So typically a research aim is the purpose of your research study. That's what the gentleman just mentioned. Guys, try and keep your research aim concise. Keep it within one sentence. Don't have like a paragraph dedicated to your research aim. That's a common problem, and I mark students down on this as well. So ensure it is within one sentence, and this is something that just simply rolls off your tongue. Okay, So I'll tell you what my research aim was: investigating the drivers and barriers for broadband adoption amongst micro restaurants based in remote rural Scotland. Okay, so I completed my PhD 5-6 years ago, but I still remember it, and I can just say it. It just rolls off my tongue. That is where you guys need to be, not this. So if somebody asks you for your research aim, you're like, it's this, and then it comes up with 4 hours later, you're still talking about your research aim. One sentence, concise, precision, it rolls off your tongue. Is that understood, guys? In terms of what a research aim is, I will give you some examples, but does that make sense? Less is more, guys. Less is more.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you start deviating, or if you start going off on a tangent, you'll lose me. If I'm examining you and you can't concisely state your research aim, you'll lose me and I'll mark you down. That would be off-putting. The examiner will be like, this person doesn't even know what their aim is. So that is something you need to drill into you. You need to program into your brain. What is my research aim? Da da da. That's it. One sentence. One sentence. So ensure the following for your research aim. Avoid being too narrow. Avoid being too broad when it comes to your area. So I'll give you an example. So avoid being too narrow, looking at the behaviors of children from under £50,000 per annum households that come to school between 9 and 12 every Monday, and their mums and dads have brown eyes, and they have blonde hair, and they live in a suburban area, and they do not spend over £10,000 a year. What feeling are you getting when I'm trying to outline a research area? So this example that I just gave you, what is the feeling that you're getting when I'm stating this research aim? Yes.
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. I think with your stated research aim, you're already narrowing it down to a specific or a certain number of people. So it's too narrow. It's already now giving you few options or few, I can say few options of your research. You're already narrowing it down to those type of people and what exactly as you've described. So it's too narrow. It's already pointing you to a certain narrow direction.
Yeah, it's so narrow that I'm focusing on people with brown eyes and blonde hair.
Yes.
It's just, and that's where you become a hostage to fortune here. You've narrowed it down so much, the area, that now you're kind of stuck. And if you don't get the relevant data, then your overall research project is on pause now, because you've kind of wrote a check that you can't cash. Then moving on to the second one, don't be too broad, guys. Okay, so I'll do the same thing again, like looking at school children parents in terms of their expenses, and that's it. Understanding the rationale of expenses for the parents of school children, and that's it. So what comes to mind when I say that? So understanding the rationale behind the expenses for the parents of school children. So that's my aim. That's what I'm going to do my PhD on. So what comes to mind straight away? Yes.
I think, like you said, it's just too broad. But when you say children, what kind of children in which location, so I think it's just too broad. There is no particular frame. There's no confines, to it. So that's my opinion on this.
Excellent. There's no parameters. So I'm not clarifying things in terms of geography. I'm not trying to narrow the population down, etc. So I could at the very least say in the UK, among like these income families, etc. So excellent. So like me not mentioning geography is a big problem because straight away I've made this into a global study. Number 3, reverse engineering. So knowing already that you will be able to collect the data, not picking an area where you're not sure whether or not you can collect the data. So, for example, exploring the content in the UFO files in the American government. So, do you think I'm going to get that data? So do you think the American government is going to allow me access to the UFO files?
Extremely
Probably
difficult.
not.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no.
So guys, try and be sensible. So know your audience, know your target audience in advance. Okay, I've got this area, it's working. However, will I be able to collect this data? Is it possible? Okay, so that's something you need to be mindful of. So hence why there is an element of reverse engineering here while you are trying to establish your research aim. Ensure precision in terms of geography and industry. So it's not just the geography, industry as well. So, like say business sector in terms of maybe the restaurant or food and drink sector or the tourism sector, try and add a bit more precision there. So the tourism sector in the UK, okay, or the restaurant sector in Algeria, or the IT sector in the UAE. So that could be your contextual setting for your study. But that kind of ensures that there is enough precision there to not make the study an absolute impossibility for you when it comes to trying to, get a representative sample, etc. And ensure that you effectively convey what you're trying to find. So what I've just previously mentioned, to investigate the drivers and barriers for broadband adoption or for AI adoption in rural Scotland. So straight away amongst micro restaurants, straight away my industry is restaurants, my geography is rural Scotland, and what I'm trying to find out are the drivers and barriers for broadband adoption. So this is what I'm trying to find out. So you've got 3 ingredients here. What you're trying to find out, okay, and the geography and the business industry. So these are the 3 ingredients which need to be in there within your aim. Otherwise, the study either becomes too broad or it's not very clear. Even though you've got these 3 things covered, if you don't convey them in your research aim, then that's a big problem, guys. Does that kind of make sense? Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. We'll quickly move on to some examples so that you get a better flavor. So you've got example 1. To investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption amongst micro restaurants in rural Scotland. So I've already addressed the 3 ingredients here. So ingredient 1 was the geography, rural Scotland. Ingredient 2 is the industry, restaurants. Ingredient 3 is what am I going to do? I'm going to investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption. Now, guys, for example 2, what are the 3 ingredients do you think that I've covered here? For example 2, guys. Okay, so what is the geography for example 2? Yeah, yes, Mirza.
Well, the 3 you have mentioned the geographical here, UAE,
Yep.
the sector for the machine learning startups. And definitely, you have mentioned you would like to explore the factors which influence the successful integration of the machine learning.
Okay, right. So you're nearly there. So geography, UAE, industry, education sector. And what am I trying to find out? The factors influencing the successful integration of ML or machine learning. That's it. Example 3, guys. So what is the industry in example 3?
The fitness industry,
What is the geography in example 3?
the USA.
And what am I trying to find out in example 3?
You're trying to identify and understand the role of influencers in that growth of the fitness industry.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so that's the 3 things. So guys, I prefer when you write an example, an aim, investigate is a stronger word, guys. To investigate is a stronger word because that, or a term, that covers identify and understanding as well. But you may use to explore and you may use to identify and understand, but never ever simply write to identify. That's too weak for an aim. Or don't simply write to understand. Okay? So these are to investigate, to explore, to identify and understand. These may be the different types of openings you may use for a research aim. Okay, so in terms of how to frame a title, guys. So for example, 1, so there's not like just a wee cheat code for you. There is no difference, or there's barely any difference between your aim and title. That's how I like it. Okay, so for example, the first one, guys, is to investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption amongst micro restaurants in rural Scotland. Okay, that's my aim. Okay, so then for the same example, example 1, the title can be Factors for AI Adoption Amongst Micro Restaurants in Rural Scotland. I'm just getting rid of to investigate or to explore or to identify and understand. So going back to example 2 now. To explore the factors influencing the successful integration of ML and startups in the UAE-based education sector, example 2, so this is the example 2 title, the successful integration of machine learning in startups in the UAE-based education sector. Then you've got example 3, in terms of research aim, to identify and understand the role of influencers in the growth of the fitness industry in the USA. And then as a potential title for this particular example, I can write, so this could be my PhD title or my thesis title, the role of influencers in the growth of the fitness industry in the USA. Does that kind of make sense, guys?
Very clear.
yes.
Okay. You're just getting rid of the active word, which is to investigate, to identify and understand, or to explore. And then the rest of the chunk, you convert that into your thesis title. So guys, what are research objectives? So when I say research objectives, what comes to mind? So what are research objectives? Anyone? Okay, it's okay. All right. So research objectives. So these are basically the steps you will take towards achieving the research aim. Do not confuse these with the research questions. Research questions are completely different to research objectives. Research objectives are ultimately the steps you will take to achieve that research aim. So typically you've got around about 4 to 5 research objectives in a PhD or DBA research project. Do not simply state what you're going to do for each research objective. You're also going to mention what you're looking to achieve as well. To do this in order to achieve that. Does that make sense? To
Yes.
conduct
Okay.
a literature review in order to get a better understanding of blah, blah, blah. So that's typically how I would look for you to structure a research objective. It's not just you simply telling me what you're going to do. You're going to tell me what you expect to achieve from that particular research objective. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So example of research objectives. So going back to my research, so the aim is to investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption amongst micro restaurants in rural Scotland. So I may have the following objectives: to review literature to gain a better understanding of the meaning of rurality. So I'm going to review the literature in order to gain a better understanding of the terminology of rurality. To do this in order to achieve that. The next one, to explore existing literature in order to identify broadband adoption drivers and barriers for rural businesses around the world. Again, I'm telling you what I'm going to do, and I'm also going to I've told you that this is what I'm looking to achieve. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So next one,
Yes.
to develop a conceptually informed framework from the review of literature in order to underpin this study theoretically. So why am I going to do this? Why am I going to develop a conceptually informed framework? So that the study has a theoretical underpinning, which may better inform my empirical stage, etc. So these are discussions for later on. But again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to do this in order to achieve that. Okay, next one. To undertake survey-based research in order to collect data from the target population. Who are the target population, guys? Look at my aim again. Who are my target population?
Rural Scotland.
Excellent. My target population is micro restaurants in rural Scotland. Okay. Next one. To analyze the empirical data to establish an original contribution to knowledge from the study. Okay. Again, I'm not going to simply write to analyze the empirical data. Who cares? Why are you doing it? Why are you telling me, buddy? You're doing this so that you can establish whether or not your research has made an original contribution to knowledge. You're going to compare your key findings with findings from authors in the literature to see what's similar and what's different. Whatever's different, that's that's exclusive to your research study, and that is your contribution to knowledge. That's why you're going to do this. That's why you're going to analyze that empirical data. Finally, at the very end, you are going to analyze collected data to inform the development of an empirically informed framework. Now, conceptually informed framework is a framework which is informed from a literature review of related theories, review of related studies. An empirically informed framework is a framework which is informed from what? What informs the empirically informed framework? So that's going to be the data that you will collect in your study. So whatever data you get, that data, whatever the emerging themes are, that is going to inform your initially or originally known as conceptual framework. And then that will convert that into an empirically informed framework. Okay. So there is whatever, if you do look to develop theory in your study, there is going to be a journey where you may start off with a conceptually informed framework, and then that will evolve into a empirically informed framework. Okay. So again, this is a discussion for another day. So guys, how to frame research questions. So what do you think are research questions, guys? So what are research questions? What are research questions? Anyone? Anything that comes to mind, guys? Okay, don't worry, I'll explain. So, okay, so guys, how to frame research questions. What are these, first of all? So these are These are questions that you retrieve from your research aims. Yes? Somebody's got their hand up. Yep. Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So how to frame your research questions? You break your aim down into smaller bits. Okay. You cut it. So imagine yourself, you've got a knife and you're cutting a cake into smaller bits. Now, each of these smaller bits that you cut the aim into, you try and convert these into questions. And these are research questions that collectively address your research aim. So ensure that the research questions collectively address the research aim. Typically, there are around about 2 to 6 research questions in a given doctoral study. And then you, like these set of research questions, which are 2 to 6 questions, you then further expand these into a set of questions which you may use in your empirical stage. So these are research questions. Research questions are not the same as research objectives. Research objectives are steps you're going to take to realize your research aim. Research questions are you breaking your aim down into smaller bits and converting each of those smaller bits into research questions. And then you further expand these research questions into a longer set of questions for your empirical stage. Okay, so let me give you an example. So, for example, we go back to my aim to investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption amongst micro restaurants in rural Scotland. So the first research question may be, what is classed as AI adoption? Okay, what is AI adoption? What do we mean by it? So we can maybe go and do the background research regarding that. Research question 2, what classifies as a rural area, classifies an area as rural in Scotland? Okay, so we need to go and explore that further. So that could be an other research question. And then next one is, what are the drivers and barriers for AI adoption? Okay, so that could be another research question area. Then finally, the final one is, what classifies as a micro restaurant in Scotland? So as you see, I've broken my aim down into smaller bits and I've converted, wherever appropriate or possible, I've converted them into questions. Does that kind of make sense, guys?
Very clear.
Very clear.
So this is, you will do it. You will have the power to do it. I cannot question you. It's up to you what you feel are appropriate research questions. But if you have too many, then I can intervene and say, look, you've got too many here. If you have too less, I can say you've got too less here. Or if they resemble objectives, I can say, look, these aren't research questions. These are objectives. These are steps you're outlining. Okay? So guys, what are key words? What are key words in a research study? What are key words? What comes to mind?
I'm thinking everything we've discussed. I don't know. I'm just
Okay, that's fine. It's fine. I'll explain. So some people don't mention keywords, but I like keywords. Because we are in an era which is very competitive. PhD students or DBA students are expected to go and publish research. I want that transition to be seamless. So I want you to get into the habit of mentioning keywords as well, even if you're writing your thesis. It doesn't matter. This is a practice that's adopted for research articles, book chapters, conference papers, etc. But why not? And then why not for a PhD thesis or a DBA thesis? Okay, so these are terms related to your research study. These are like research questions retrieved from your research aim. There's typically around about 4 to 6 keywords in a research study. For example, going back to my aim again, guys, to investigate the drivers and barriers for AI adoption amongst micro restaurants in rural Scotland. So the keywords that I've retrieved from this, it's up to me, it's my opinion, are rural, Scotland. Drivers and barriers is the third keyword or key term. AI, artificial intelligence, is the fourth one. And the fifth one is micro restaurants. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are more so key terms related to your research area. Where will you get them from? Your aim. That's where you'll get them from. Where do you get your research questions from? Your aim. That's where you will get them from. Your objectives, what are they? These will be the steps you take to achieve or realize the research aim. Okay. Okay, guys, so I'm not going to go into detail because there's absolutely no point doing this at this stage. We need to figure out what we're doing in terms of our research area. Then we need to frame a research aim and title, a set of objectives, set of research questions, etc. So let's not run before we can even stand. But anyway, so that you've got an idea what you might do in the future, how may a research methodology link to your research aim? Okay. So, right, guys, so just to give you an idea, flavor, a study with an aim to explore. So if a study has to explore in its research aim, will be more likely aligned with a qualitative research study. A qualitative research study is comfortable with multiple answers to a given question, okay? So exploratory is obviously aligned with this because you are exploring, you're open to new things, or you're open to multiple things to a given question, etc. So there's more flexibility there. Exploratory, for me, indicates flexibility. Flexibility then better aligns with qualitative research study. So qualitative study aligns with the philosophy of interpretivism. So that is a philosophy which is comfortable with multiple answers to a given question, which is mentioned here as well, and a typical data collection method which is aligned, which gives you a future projection of where you might be going with this, would be interviews. So via interviews, you sit down, you ask open-ended questions, and your interviewee or subject gives you multiple answers to a given question, or it could be anything, it's not predicted, etc. So hence why it's open-ended, hence why it's more along the lines of exploratory and interpretivism. A study with an aim to investigate will be more likely aligned with a quantitative study. So you may investigate something that's already been done, okay? You're maybe further stretching out or extending a study or research in a given area, okay? So that is where a more quant-based study will be appropriate. What is quantitative study? So that's something that that can predict or project the potential answers to a given question. For example, what color is the sky? So somebody will say it's blue. I might say something like, how tall are you? Where do you live? Okay, so how many answers can you give to those questions? So where do you live? Is that a open-ended or close-ended question? So where do you live? So am I anticipating lots of answers here? Or is it going to be a restricted answer for this? Where do you live?
It's
Well,
restricted.
it's a restricted.
Yeah. So where do you live?
Johannesburg,
Where
South Africa.
Okay, good.
Oh, are you
So you just
asking
give
us? Oh, okay.
okay. So very good. So that will align with a quantitative research study, which is more focused, more restricted when it comes to answers, and that better aligns with a survey research design, which would have a data collection method of questionnaires, therefore aligning with positivism, which is comfortable with limited answers to a given question. However, if I ask you, how do you live? Is that going to have limited answers to that given question, or is that going to have many answers?
Many.
Many.
Well, it's
Maybe.
an open-ended question, and definitely.
So does that align with exploratory or we're investigating something?
Yes.
So what does
Exploratory.
it exploratory? So
Mm.
therefore, it's more qualitative, it's more open-ended, it's more interpretivism, which is comfortable with multiple answers to a given question. Okay? So that's something I want you to already program into your head. You don't need to capture everything straight away, but it's something for you to keep at the back of your head. So when you are trying to develop your research aim, research title, research objectives, research questions, keywords, at the back of your head, I want you to maybe roughly project how you're going to collect the data. Okay, doesn't need to be in depth. Maybe you like the idea of doing questionnaires. So you need to make sure you structure the aim accordingly. Maybe you like the idea of doing doing interviews. Then you need to structure the aim appropriately. So for interviews, maybe it's to explore, but for maybe like say questionnaires, maybe it's something along the lines of to investigate. Okay, so however, there are cases where you may use a mixed methods design. So mixed methods is a mixture of both of them, qualitative and quantitative research. Okay, so you may use a mixture of both. I done that myself. Okay, so you may use quantitative research to try and capture a large population, and then you like via the quantitative research, you may identify participants that want to participate in follow-up interviews. Okay, now you have a smaller sample, and then you interview that smaller sample to get more insight via open-ended questions. Therefore, you have done a mixed methods research study. The first stage was trying to capture, like say, more like more summary based or more of a like holistic insight from a larger population, but you also ask them whether or not they want to participate in a follow-up study. Then in the follow-up study with a smaller sample, you've done interviews and you captured these additional insights via open-ended questions and open-ended or exploratory based answers. Okay, so that is more of a mixed method study. Again, I don't want to confuse you at this stage. That's something for you to think about in the future. So today we've covered the following things. So we've learned how to like we've gained an initial understanding of how to frame a title and aim. Remember, a title and aim is very similar. An aim has an active terminology of to investigate, to explore, to understand and identify. You just simply need to chop that off and convert that into a title. So we've kind of differentiated between the two. Similar, but different. Outlining research objectives. Remember, guys, these are steps that you will take to achieve your aim. So you're going to do this in order to achieve that for each of the objectives. And these are not the same as research questions. The next thing that we've done is we've learned how to establish a set of research questions. So we take the aim, we chop it into smaller bits, and then we convert those smaller bits into research questions wherever appropriate. And then you can further expand on these research questions into a longer list of questions later on in your study when you are collecting the data, whether it's collecting data via interviews or questionnaires. Finally, we at this stage, at this very early stage, we've tried to link our research aim to a potential methodology when it comes to research philosophy and data collection. So we've tried to cover these things today, okay? So this is homework for you guys. You're not kids here, guys. The average age here is probably around about 30 years old or something. So I'm not going to police you. You do it. If you do it, good for you. I'm very happy for you. If you don't, no problem. I don't care. But this is something to stretch you beyond this session in your own time. Do a little bit of background reading on an area that interests you. Ensure that there is some sort of gap identified in more recent studies from the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Maybe you can see that gap by looking at the abstract on a given publication or looking at the conclusion section on the given publication. And then try and create the following things if you do think that you funneled down into an area that interests you in terms of geography and industry. try and create this research aim. Remember, one sentence, it rolls off your tongue. There's business sector there, there's geography there, and there is what you're going to do as well in there within the research aim. Ensure you've got around about 4 to 5 research objectives. These are steps you're going to take, what you're going to do, and what you expect to achieve for each of the objectives. Then you've got around about 2 to 6 research questions. You break the aim down into smaller bits. You convert the bits into questions. Remember to do that, 2 to 6 research questions. Then finally, keywords. So once more again, you cut your aim up into smaller bits, and these are keywords or terminologies from your research aim. So in my case, it was rural, it was Scotland, it was AI, it was micro restaurants, etc. Whatever you feel are relevant terminologies, around 4 to 6 keywords. So this is for an activity to do in your own time. Is that clear, guys? Is everybody clear on what they're doing?
Yes, that's clear.
It's not easy, guys. You need to spend the time. It's as simple as that. You need to invest the time. So the hard part is doing the background study, the reading, etc. Okay. Okay. So finally, so here are some references here, guys. I highly recommend the references of Creswell. So anything that John Creswell has done is excellent. My friend Peter Samuels, he's written a couple of books on research methodology. So he's another author that you can go and pursue. And you've got David Silverman as well. He's another renowned figure when it comes to research methodology and writing PhD thesis or doctoral thesis. And then finally, you've got the great Mark Saunders. He's another friend of mine. He is a specialist in this area. He's written over 10 textbooks on research methods. That's another guy, regardless of what edition it is, whatever edition you can get a hold of, he's great as well. You can get electronic versions as well as hard copy versions. So these are some key sources that I would highly encourage you to use or follow up on. So we'll end with questions. So thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions, you can ask them now. Yes.
Well, thank you very much for the excellent lecture. It was very clear to me, and it helped me to understand the things more clearly. However, I would request whether would it be possible for you to send us the PowerPoint presentation, as it will help us to.
We'll share that with you anyway.
to-
That's
thank you
regular
very much.
practice. So we need to share that with students. So that's not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, guys, a couple of more questions. Any other questions?
No question from my side.
Okay, guys. So I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully this will get the ball rolling for you in terms of doing the background research and then trying to frame a set of aim at the title, the aim, the objectives, research questions, the keywords, etc. If you don't have any more questions, then I believe that's the end of the session. Yes. I believe somebody has a question. You may ask it. Any questions, guys? Somebody spoke. I don't know who it was.
No question from my side.
So Mirza, you're okay. Sam, you okay?
Yes.
Yep,
Ola,
I'm
can
good.
Yep.
Right, Gloria, do you have a question?
Things are clear, sir. Thank you very much.
Not really. It's well understood. Thank you.
Okay, I'll share the slides with the admin team shortly. And yeah, so that's the end of today's session.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
weekend,
Thank you.
guys. Thank
you
you.
very
You too.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Azmat, I'll just share the